Welcome back, everybody, to our next session. Thank you for being with us, and I'm not going to take any more time. I would like to introduce our two next speakers, talking on a very interesting, very important, and intriguing topic. It's not just a beanbag, creating a collaborative, purpose-driven, circular supply chain. Very cleverly. Connecting our 2022 SAPEX conference theme into their presentation, and it was very well received at our conference. I'd like to introduce Tammy Grayling. She's the Operations Director and Occupational Therapist for Clothes to Good in South Africa. And as an occupational therapist, Tammy has been fortunate to work with people with disabilities and their families for the last 25 years, learning so much from them. She's made it her mission to educate the world about their strengths and the positive impact they could have in their communities when given the opportunity. She holds a master's degree in early childhood intervention, and she believes that thousands of sustainable employment opportunities could be created for people with disabilities through waste, in inverted commas. It just depends on how we look at waste and whether we see people with disabilities through a can or cannot lens. She's accompanied in the presentation today by Deerwald Tolman. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Sorry, Deerwald. Infantry Manager at Barloworld Logistics, a great supporter of SAPEX over many years. Deerwald joined Barloworld in 2016 as the Infantry Manager on the Nike South Africa account. And he's had over 9 years experience specializing in infantry management and has been in the supply chain industry for over 17 years. Deerwald, with the support of Barloworld and Nike, the Nike South Africa teams, to deliver on the overall Nike global sustainability objectives. Deerwald is actively involved in the disabled community, advocating for people with disabilities inclusion, as he is a father of a disabled child. He has an advanced diploma in logistics management from UJ, and he's currently working on a BCom in supply chain management. Good luck with your studies. Over to you both. Thank you for your time. And the next session is lunch, so you have until about 1:15. But if you can, include some time for some questions too. And everyone will put their questions in the Q&A panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If everybody can see my screen, we just have confirmation there. I guess basics first.
Not yet, but I can. It might come up. There we go. There it is.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Myself and Tammy, we're extremely excited on the solution. And I think big things that we want to actually take the guys through is the solution is there to enable us to actually think differently when it comes to waste management. And also, how do we have an impact on the different communities around us. As mentioned, I'm currently now operations manager on the contract, and Tammy is still at Close to Good. I'll be taking you through the why, Tammy the impact, and seeing that my good colleague couldn't make it, I'll do the way forward as well. At Barloworld, essentially the way we approach initiatives or anything is that we want to really inspire a world of difference, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you just want to make a difference. You want to inspire people, and we hope by the end of this presentation we were able to inspire you to think differently about how to collaborate and do waste management. So on to the initiative. Back in 2018, we were approached by a client to say that we need to meet a 0% to landfill target. And this is what our warehouse looked like. And I'm sure if you look at your warehouses, your DCs, even offices, you do see something similar to this. Now, going from this into 0%, not as easy as it looks. A single warehouse like this, look at 20, 30, 40 warehouses and the impact that we have on the environment. Now, if you think about that, also circularity is seen as one of the key business trends into the next decade. Therefore, we already have a call to action on this particular environmental issue, which we are busy solving for. So just some numbers. I know people like numbers. We were doing about one skip a week to landfill, and on average doing 2 to 3 12-meter containers of footwear, apparel, and equipment waste that would go be shredded and put directly into landfill. So how did we approach the problem? We started off simply. We looked at our processes within the facility. We enabled the teams by training them. We created green teams that helped us enable people to sort at source. This essentially just made it easy for the recycling vendor. When it gets to the recycling area, you would then have it already sorted, and you will be able to recycle a lot more. But in the warehousing environment, we had a massive issue. And this is the backing labels. In each warehouse, most to all companies actually print labels, whether it's for shipping or receiving. You have the backing labels that remains, and there's no sustainable solution for this. On the other side, there's no actual solution in industry to cater for footwear, apparel, and equipment. Therefore, we started to we had to go into market to find a solution to address these problems. This is what pushed us to think of what options would be available and how we could collaborate with various partners to solve for the problem. But these problems with the vendors had to meet two fundamental pillars. First off, no impact on the environment, and it had to be inclusive, needed to make an impact, and needed to be innovative. So we had to ask ourselves, how can responsible waste management contribute to an inclusive workforce? Can a particular form of waste have a positive impact on a social challenge in South Africa? How do we convert waste into a resource that has an actual impact? Finding a partner to support us wasn't easy, but once we did, we were able to collaborate on those three I's. Our partner Close to Good inspired us and challenged us to think about the impact we could have. And this was far beyond what we could have imagined. Not once was there a cannot be done discussion, but rather what else can be done. Therefore, we were really proud to be associated with a team from Close to Good. For me personally, as a father of a disabled child, this I really saw from the beginning as a real contribution towards the disabled community. Therefore, we partnered together. And with that being said, I'll be handing over to Tammy to take us through the actual impact of our initiative. Tammy, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll start again. I often smile about this collaboration because, if you think about an occupational therapist working mostly with people with disabilities, what do we have to do with Barloworld? How do we really collaborate with them? And I think this is such a fun story, and I'm so privileged to be sharing this story with you. And Dewald, just words in kind that, this collaboration has also mean a lot to us because it has created such a big impact. Just to give you a little bit of context, there's many social challenges in South Africa, and it's difficult for any organization to focus on too many. And these are the challenges that we've decided as Close to Good to focus on because it is a community that's very close to our hearts. I'm just going to not to spend too long on that, but just to tell you about some of the challenges. We have a lack of quality education for children in South Africa. And many of you might know that we're actually in crisis when it comes to education. There was a report written not so many years ago called the Pearls Report. And that report established that 78% of children in grade 4 in South African public schools could not read with meaning. That means almost 8 out of 10 children in grade 4 cannot really read. I think that relates strongly to the 55% dropout rate before grade 12, meaning that for every child that starts in grade 1, 55% of them, 55 out of every 100, would not have a matric certificate. And that leaves us with a lot of problems. The one is that we're sitting with youth that feel that they cannot contribute, they don't have lives with meaning and purpose, they can't go on to study. And I think most of us know the problems that we have in South Africa. And I think we know that the first 7 years of a child's life is the most important time of their lives. If we know that 75% of brain development happens in the first 1,000 days of a child's life, and the rest of the 25 happens throughout your life, we know how many children do not get any stimulation or very little stimulation when in that first 1,000 days, just because of a lack of knowledge from parents, a lack of resources, but also because 55% of our country's people live in poverty, meaning that there's not really food in the house, let alone any form of toy or stimulation. So that is one of the reasons why we focus on education, because we know that it can solve many problems in South Africa if we can get those children very early and we can stimulate them so that they can read when they're in grade 4, going on to get a grade 12 certificate. The second group that's been very marginalized in South Africa is children with disabilities. At the moment, statistics says that 600,000 children with disabilities are not attending school. I'm of the opinion that it's a lot more. So meaning that these children don't have any education, no stimulation, no education at all, sitting at home. And meaning that they will never become contributing members of society because they're just not taught the skills that they need to one day work. We know that a lot of those children, all children with disabilities, become adults with disabilities, and adults with disabilities are required to create some form of meaning in their lives, but also to become contributing members of society. So that population is very, very important to us, and we also very clearly understand their potential. The third group are mothers of children with disabilities. So mothers of children with disabilities have a very unique and sometimes very sad existence, because many of them leave their very good jobs to look after their children with disabilities. Because especially in some of our poorer communities, mothers do not have the option to put a child in an early childhood development center because there is not one close to a house. And even if there are ECD centers, these principals are not equipped to accommodate those children. But also there's a huge stigma around disability in some of the South African cultures, and has a lot to do with people thinking that they've been involved in witchcraft and things that's really hurtful to these families. So our mothers of children with disabilities can't go out to work. Many of them are single mothers, and for that reason, we try to empower them, and later on I will tell you how. And finally, adults with disabilities. Because we know all children with disabilities become adults, we know that 94 to 99% of people with disabilities in our country are not formally employed. And even if they are employed, it is mostly people with physical disabilities who don't have a cognitive impairment. And we also know that people with intellectual disabilities and autism have been excluded and is continue to be excluded. Next slide. Dewald, you can give the next slide.
Okay.
Thank you. So this is not about close to good. This presentation is not about us, but just to tell you our 3 pillars. Our mission is to alleviate poverty, and we do that through micro business development and also creating employment opportunities for people with disabilities. Inclusion is very important. We have a cradle to career approach. We start early. We try to find children with disabilities very early so that our therapy team can give them intervention so that they are correctly positioned, that they can learn the skills that they need to, so that eventually they can reach their fullest potential and also become contributing members of society. And finally, because we are a recycling organization, we do whatever we can to care for the environment. So Close to Good is in essence a textile recycling and disability empowerment organization. And we do all that empowerment through waste, mostly through textile waste. And I'm going to just do this once to put waste like that because waste has meant a lot to many people in many different organizations. So you can do the next slide. Okay, so just to add to what Dewald was saying, the 3 I's are very important for this collaboration, and working with Barloworld has been a huge privilege because as a team, we came up with many different solutions. And I think Dewald gave us a lot of credit, but they did a lot of the thinking with us. It wasn't just us that did the thinking. And that's where teamwork becomes really, it's really important because 20 brains are definitely better than one. So as for inclusivity, we work mostly with lower skilled people, with people that do not have a matric certificate. We don't exclude anybody. It doesn't matter if you left school in grade 4 or 5, whether you can read or write or not. It doesn't mean that you don't have the potential to work. There's many jobs in the world that you don't need reading and writing skills for. With regards to inclusivity, also people with disabilities and their families. It doesn't matter the disability. It doesn't matter the severity of the disability. We're always going to try and find something in our organization that's meaningful that you can do. We have also empowered many of our customers, and we'll also now start to do that with Barloworld, where we assist them to employ people with disabilities and we help to support them. In terms of impact, we believe that when we choose a project or when we decide on a specific project that we want to do, it has to have multi-level impact. And going back to the 4 challenges that we're trying to address, we look at it and say, can it impact early childhood development? Can it impact people with disabilities? Can it impact mothers of children with disabilities? And can it impact the environment? And the challenge is to not have just one impact, because the more impact levels you have, the more people you can empower. And then with regards to innovation, it is really about thinking. It is really about collaboration. And as Dewald said in the beginning, it is not about making a difference in the world. It is not about us. It's not about Barloworld. It's about what can we do together to inspire a better world? What can we do together to really touch somebody's heart and go into a home and leave there and a child with a disability is better off, or a principal of a school would now accommodate a child with a disability, and she feels inspired because she feels that she can do that. Next slide. Okay, so let's start with innovation. Now, this is actually a show and tell presentation, which is very difficult behind the computer, but I'm going to try my best to show some of the things that we are doing. So we have been involved with Barloworld for the last 3 years, I think. It might be a little bit longer. And one of the things that we are helping them with is to do something with their shoes. So we would typically get a shoe like that is not suitable for market. I hope you can see that. What our team would do, and this is a team of lower skilled people and also people with disabilities, they would separate the shoe in 3. So they would cut off the top part. They would take out the inner, and there we would also have the sole. Now, these 3 are then shredded in their different kinds. So the sole gets shredded separately from the inner sole and from the upper, because they have different applications as when they are shredded. So for the when we do the shredding of the soles, those at the moment go mostly into pavers, big paving blocks that they mix with cement to strengthen the cement. And then we have a partner who lays them at early childhood development centers and at schools where there's no walkway. So that's just one of the applications that we do at the moment with the soils. The inners, we love the inners. This is a black inner, but they come in many fantastic colors. And we make early childhood development toys from them. So there's a counting board, and this is for the number 8. And there's 8 of those round things that have been cut from inners. And there's the number 2. We also use them on our sensory boards for children when we teach them shapes. There you can see those are also from the inner soles. So we always try and find ways to use everything. For instance, what you'll see there, there's a beanbag there. Let me just find my beanbag. So the beanbags are filled, instead with beans, they are filled with shoe waste, because we know that some of our children would open the beanbags at school and take those beans home to cook them, because there's a lot of hunger in the world. Just to give you an idea of what the shredded shoe waste looks like, I hope you can see that. So it very much looks like that. And we use that on the pictures below. You can see disability-specific products. So we're really trying to be innovative in how do we use this waste to give a child with a disability a better life. So those seating, the first 2 pictures that you see there is a child with a disability that cannot sit by themselves. So those seating resources are filled with shoe waste and sometimes other materials. We also try to use backing paper in them, so it makes them nice and sturdy. Would give a child with a disability an option to go to an early childhood development center, because she doesn't have to be on somebody's back the whole time. They can actually sit up straight. There in the bottom picture, those chairs are made solely from cardboard boxes and newspaper, and they are strengthened with backing paper. So it's actually painted onto the chair with a glue that's made from flour and water. So, those are just 2 of the things, and I'm sure as partners and as people in the field of working with waste, we can come up with many more ideas. Next slide. Okay. In terms of inclusivity at Clothes to Good, we are very passionate about including children with disabilities in early childhood development centers, because we know if we don't stimulate them early, they will very much be lost to society. We want to get them early when they're 1 or 2 or 3. So we focus on inclusion of children with disabilities, and therefore we try to make these disability-specific resources, chairs from cardboard, things stuffed with shoe waste, so that a principal or a teacher in an early childhood development center would feel more confident to include them, because they have the right resources. Skills development, a lot of people with lower skills and people with disabilities. You'll see there in the bottom picture, one of our students in our work readiness program taking a box and flattening the box and cutting them. And we make these counting footprints from our boxes where we receive the shoes in. So it's an early childhood development resource. In our organization, mostly people with disabilities are creating these resources. And there in the middle, you'll see one of my favorite people, who's James, who unfortunately passed away this year. A person who cannot read and write, but he was the leader in our shoe shredding team. So that machine that you see there is a machine that we've built, that's been built in South Africa, and we are shredding the shoes with that machine. So we try and make sure that people with disabilities and people who are lower skilled have a lot of opportunities. And because we work with waste, and waste doesn't fight back, and it doesn't require a lot of reading and writing, we are able to do that. Diervald, next slide. Okay. I think the wonder of waste, if I can say it like that, the beauty of waste, is that there's so many things that we can do with it if we really just sit and think. And if it's not just a numbers game on, okay, how many shoes can we shred and where can we dump it? because that's unfortunately what happens. How many pieces of apparel can we debrand and where can we dump it? All those pictures that you see there are things that we are actually making for children with disabilities and children with disabilities. To give you an example, we had to destroy a lot of apparel for Barloworld, and any stretchy T-shirt that's been debranded then becomes because it's nice and stretchy, it becomes a skipping rope. We've been in many early childhood development centers and we have never found a skipping rope in any. So our people with disabilities make skipping ropes for children without disabilities in these communities. I've spoken about the resources for children with disabilities. Families of children with disabilities are also making Mothers of children with disabilities are also making disability-specific resources in our team. So this is a very big thing, and it's called a weighted blanket made from recycled denim. And inside there we have recycled glass, because that is what it gives. That's what gives the weighted blanket its weight, and everything, the fidgets on it, is all recycled from our various fashion partners. Any material, headbands and things that we recycle from them. It also impacts early childhood development teachers, because we make these resources and we train them on how to use these resources with the children, how to use them, the resources to stimulate the children, but also to make these resources themselves. How does it impact adults with disabilities? They are in our team. They are making resources. They generate an income for their families through a salary. And then finally, obviously, the environment. And I think when we look at the impact of waste and you see that list, that is the impact that Barloworld's waste have for people, in our ecosystem. Next slide. Okay, just to give you a little bit of numbers, that ECD box that you see there is an ECD tool with 50 activities in there, made mostly from waste and made mostly by people with disabilities. In that box, there is around 15 beanbags in various activities. So through our 1 to 3 ECD project, we have empowered 296 teachers and principals, more than 2,900 beanbags, and the impact was on 7,700 children from 148 centers. If you think about, we work with 148 ECD centers in Diepsloot. If 148 centers each had a seating option for a child with a disability, it would mean 148 children with disabilities included, and it would also mean 148 mothers or family members that could potentially find employment. You can next slide. Okay. So just by destroying shoes for Barloworld, just in our organization, and that is just one project, there's 3 people cutting and shredding shoes, 1 person producing chairs using the backing paper and the boxes from shoes, 7 people in a skills development program. They delace, they debrand the shoes, etc. And 4 mothers of children with disabilities making disability-specific resources. Just with the collaboration with Barloworld, 15 people are empowered. And I know, working with many other organizations or companies, so many more people could be empowered if we just think differently about waste. Just to give you a little bit of context also, for instance, when we have to destroy for Barloworld, we would send a team of people to their premises. The shoes will be destroyed there, so that it will be made unusable, so that when we take it to our organization, that there's no risk of, so people would not like to take it anymore. And 50% of the people that we take on site are people with disabilities, helping us with that first step, and then they are involved right through the process. Next slide. Okay. So when we think about waste and when we think about finding solutions, we know that we can only do that through collaboration. None of this would have been possible if we did not collaborate, if we did not have the waste from Barloworld, and if we did not have a team at Close to Good who were passionate about what do we do with that. So how do we bridge the gap between waste and resource? The beauty is that it's really all in our minds. Most ideas start there. So if we continue to open our minds to this is not waste, this is a resource, and ask the question not where can we dump it, but what can this become? How could it impact? How could it impact the environment? How many people can it impact? Can it have an impact on children, children with disabilities? Can we make something of this? And then I think a very important thing for us, what does it mean for the environment? I often look at just one shoe and think how long that shoe would take, even the shoe waste would take, to decompose, and what it does to the environment. And just you can maybe just confirm this, Dewald, but I think we have done over 200. How many shoes have we destroyed for you? Do you know? Do you know the number?
18,000 pairs. I think that was over the last 3 years.
Yeah, 18,000 pairs, and I know the warehouse is still, there's many more to come now, so I think we should first go on a little bit of a holiday before we do the next one. So that is from me. That pink word there at the bottom says inspire. I think, as a challenge to everybody, it is about taking what you have and inspiring others with it. Thank you. Dewald, back to you, talking about the way forward.
Thanks, Tam. So my good colleague normally presents the way forward. So it's going to get a little bit technical, so keep with me. And if I stumble along the way, just forgive me. So we need to get into essentially what does this mean for supply chain. I just want to get my notes up and running here. And is that we have to take a step back and just reflect on what it is and where we are at the moment. So we've evolved as a supply chain. We obviously are people, process, and technology is customer-centered. And this obviously allowed us to look into different ways of work. So from process, how do we have agility and specialization, lean and Six Sigma that we also brought in. From a people perspective, we've got specialized skills, improved productivity. And you look at technology, the industrial revolution we heard a lot about today, does help us to deliver more value to our customers. But we cannot ignore the impact this has on the environment. We've got rapid urbanization, health conditions of people, exploitation, and typically a lot of the people is excluded from the supply chain design. If we fast forward and look at the same design from a technology perspective, technology allows us to maximize customer experience with networks, hardware, integrations, applications that are tailor-made to enhance the customer expectations. So if you look at how we've done this, you've got telematics, you've got your WMS, your TMS, all of this feeding in and giving better insights and a better experience to those customers. So we've reduced our cost, we've improved our quality, our communications improved, our liabilities improved, and our control and governance has improved over time because of the customer experience that is required. So we need to think about what all this means from a technology perspective, because the technology enables e-commerce from a sales and benefits the customer or the consumer or ourselves. But it does have an impact on the environment from a supply chain design. We've got smaller orders, often driving up CO2 emissions, unsustainable packaging, narrow delivery windows, multiple drops to customers that is inefficient in itself. Online returns in some industries reporting 25% returns. For this doesn't have just an impact on the CO2 emissions, but as well on product waste, as we've seen an increase in that as well. We need to think about tech and integration beyond the customer and take a stakeholder view. By this we mean, what does it mean for the community and environment? And how can we use technology to better integrate? How do we use technology to give us better visibility within the supply chain and understand where low resource communities are, where early childhood development centers are, also knowing if they have been vetted and how we can better access them. From an environmental point of view, we need to understand the inputs and the impact. This also will allow us to mine data and make better decisions into the future. As part of our journey, we need to move from net linear to a more circular economy. We need to integrate a lot more than just hardcore aspects like warehousing and transport. We need to start thinking about how do we pull in more SMMEs like close to good and draw in some beneficiaries in communities where they actually need some of these resources. So I'm going to spend some time on this slide. So we're moving forward, we need to think of this as a platform, from a platform point of view. Is how do we integrate this circular economy? We need to think about these 4 pillars. First, a marketplace where the demand can find the sell side. It's all good and well if in small scale like us working with close to good, but it has to be scalable and allow SMEs to have the skills to create products like this to upload and sell. Technology allows us to do this. And how does people with the resources participate and are able to buy products and donate to people who actually need them? The second pillar, the current supply chain network in itself is inefficient in its design. We have to collaborate and see how we can improve the way we collect waste from where it actually sits, all the way from the customer to the area where the resources that can use it be delivered to them. Third one, having collaborative funding so we can invest in common infrastructure that all parties can use. The investment into infrastructure on a small scale is simply not sustainable. The fourth pillar, create a marketplace where material resource generators like us in Barloworld can find organizations like Close to Good. It took Barloworld some time to find a partner that could help us with a solution. Technology is available, and it needs to allow us to bring producers of waste together with these organizations. We need to build a platform where waste producers can upload the waste and organizations can give possible solutions on products that can be made from the waste. Excuse me. So this is the overall supply chain view. Not too overcomplicated. Essentially, we need to solve for how do we return product from customer or within a supply chain, whether it's in our warehousing or distribution, at retailers, wholesalers. And certain types of waste, how do we get that into a common infrastructure that is scalable so that we can granularize the goods to a level where people like Tammy or Close to Good can actually use it. For example, if we had to put in a scalable solution for footwear grinding, the cost is up to the millions, and it's simply not sustainable for one organization to do that, even though this is an industry issue. From there, we would be able to give the raw materials to companies like Close to Good, and that can then be donated or sold to beneficiaries. So where we are today, we at Barloworld, we are evolving the solution to create the first online platform. We are currently in the phase of developing our MVP around a marketplace, the first pillar. This is simply an online platform where consumers can access the product. The beauty of the platform is that the organizations that the items is being donated to is vetted beforehand. That gives a little bit of peace of mind for the donor. But what is more important than just the application is understanding the reason therefore. In today's environment, we have abundance. We can buy anything we want to. So the importance of the platform is critical. We are in an environment where choices are limited. We need to keep compete for people's attention. the platform needs to be created so that we can not just talk about a sale, but essentially talk about the beanbag. So what is the beanbag made from? Who did it impact? Where's it going? And so that the person buying it actually has the background of the product itself. So we need to sell the story of the product as well as the product on the platform. The second phase is coming into the future. This is where we create a platform through collaboration. This is where industry needs to come together and create a platform where SMMEs and waste stream vendors can meet. How does it work? Simply a waste producer like Barloworld should be able to log into the platform, upload the waste details, and the demand side SMEs can access the platform to access the waste resource to rework into products. The third pillar into the way future is we want to have the industry come together, collaborate and invest in common infrastructure. Common infrastructure can cost up to millions, for example, the grinder for footwear, but solutions is only effective if used in scale. How do we then collaborate on a platform where we donate, whether it's on a CSI or enterprise development spend? This would typically be the good place to spend it. On demand side, SMMEs can book a slot where it is in Thabisa, Soweto, or anywhere in South Africa, where they can tap into these resources and work on the product in a low resource area. So without saying too much, I think the point that we are trying to drive home from a sustainability point of view is that there is no point in competing. We do not see this as an area where we gain any strategic advantage. This will not make sense as the cost of competing when it comes to the environment is too expensive. We have to collaborate in finding these common solutions. What we've done is a small contribution, and there's a much larger global complex problem that we have to solve for. But for us, this is just the beginning in driving in the right direction. So we plead to people to collaborate or think differently when it comes to these type of solutions. And in closing, just taking it back home a little bit, as mentioned before, I am a father of a disabled child. My son passed last year, but the learnings we've taken over the years just keeps on driving us to drive initiatives like this. We were lucky enough to put our child into a stimulation center, get the stimulation equipment. Even if it was a significant cost, it did improve his quality of life. The stimulation center, when he went to the school, he was 3 years old and he had no control over his neck or any body function. In 4 years, he was able to start doing sign language. He was able to sit. And his quality of life improved and his moods as well as improved. His medical conditions actually went down. He wasn't having as much epilepsy as he used to have. So for us, we know why this is important, why creating products specifically for ECD centers that can stimulate the children is more than just saying it. We know that there really is a purpose for this. So that's in closing, that's me.
Thank you, dear Walter and Tammy. I'm actually not quite sure what to say. I've written down all these beautiful words to thank you both. I'm sorry for your loss, your incredible loss, dear Walter, on behalf of all of us and the SAPEX community. Thank you for sharing your story. It's just the most amazing presentation that meets so many needs: circular supply chain, community needs, employment issues, partnerships and collaboration. You use the word collaboration, and environmentally sustainable solutions. And that's why this presentation, Jenny, cleverly reminded me that won the most innovative presentation at the 2022 conference in June. So well done to the two of you. We just have one question, which is where can we donate old shoes for shredding? And that's asked by Jenny, who has a puppy who ruins a lot of her shoes. So she has a big stock for you guys. I have also put your website into the chat, and hopefully people will reach out to you. And then just I hope you can see all the comments and see all the love and the support that you're getting on the screen. How do we connect with you, Tammy?
Thank you for the kind words. So you can go to our website, www.clothesToGood.com. Both Jessie, who is the founder of Clothes to Good, and my details are on there. We both get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because that's the only time of the day that's quiet. So you can actually WhatsApp us from then. And it's a great way to connect with us, but you can also connect directly to our emails from the website.
Great. And thank you, Devald, for the amazing work and that you do at Barloworld. And yeah, we're going to close now. And thank you both for your time again for SAPEX, and congratulations again on the award. And just to say that we will be back at 25 to 2. So you've got 15 minutes or so to grab some lunch, and but also feel free to chat to us on the tables. And Tammy and Dewald, if you've got a couple of minutes, you can sit at a table, and maybe some people will want to just chat to you as well on there. And just a reminder to do the poll clicking to rate your to rate the speakers, please, and reach out to us, our sponsors, if you can. So thank you, everybody. See you in about 15 minutes, and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, everybody.